Hi, my name is Bernie Williams and welcome to That 4x4 Show. You as the viewer have been asking us to please test the latest Isuzu KB. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. The Isuzu is currently one of the most expensive double cabs in this segment of the market, and we will be comparing it to a more affordable brand name double cab bakkie. In South Africa, the double cab bakkie is about as popular as beer, braaivleis and biltong. That's why we have such a huge selection of double cab bakkies, ranging from the downright nasty to the super expensive SUV-like bakkies. Up until recently, it really was just a two-horse race, with Toyota Hilux and the new Ford Ranger accounting for the bulk of the sales in this segment of the market. But finally, this year in March, General Motors launched the new Isuzu KB.
The KB was new, but in a way it was also not new at all. The engines were carried over from the previous generation bakkie, albeit with a few more horses and added refinement.
So, what is the latest score in this segment of the market?
The Toyota Hilux is still the undisputed king of the double cab hill, and in August 2013, Toyota sold a total of 1,294 double cabs. The Crown Prince is still the Ford Ranger at 834 units. The Isuzu, after 6 months in the market, has settled into the third place with 431 double cab units.
So then, why is the Isuzu playing third fiddle in this segment of the market? To try and find answers to those burning questions, we have here today the latest KB300 D-Tech 4x4, and we are going to test this vehicle today.
The latest Isuzu KB isn't ugly by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also not amazingly good looking either. It just looks a bit plasticky, a bit too sanguinish. As I've said, it's not bad looking, but it also doesn't have that X factor that the new Ford Ranger has that makes it stand out from the crowd. The new KB is bigger and bolder for sure. The new bakkie is wider and taller than the old model, and this bodes well for the interior.
On the old Isuzu KB, the rear seat was never one of its best qualities. So is it any better in the new one? Let's find out. So is it any better? Yes, it is, marginally though. Still can't compare to the new Ford Ranger.
The rest of the interior is about 1,000 times more modern than the old Model 2. You get most of the bells and whistles like the Bluetooth sound system, the climate control, and the leather and some buttons on the steering wheel. It's all very spacious and funky, even though some of the plastics feel a tad flimsy.
But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And in the Isuzu, ride quality combined with a powerful drivetrain have always been its hallmark.
And indeed, on the road, the KB's comfy and solid ride is still very much evident. The 3-litre turbo diesel engine now produces 130 kilowatts and 380 newton meters of torque at 1,800 RPM. Like its application in the previous KB incarnation, the engine's power and torque delivery is spectacularly seamless, without that on or off feeling in some other modern turbo diesel engines. It also forms a near-perfect power versus ratio partnership with a 5-speed manual gearbox. The drivetrain still has that typical old Isuzu feeling of indestructibility about it, and that's a very good thing.
Far from pleasant though are the gear changes on the new KB. The old KB, the gear changes were almost switch-like. This is a lot heavier and a lot more bulky, but I suppose it's going to be a lot happier on a gravel road and on a 4x4 track.
The KB still has a low-range transfer case and rear differential lock, and its rear wheel articulation is really impressive. You can also activate the diff lock on the move at speeds of less than 60 kilometers an hour, which is real handy in tough 4x4 conditions. From a 4x4 point of view, the Isuzu is very impressive, with especially the rear axle's articulation that is a highlight. It just has that feeling that it will do this every day without any issues for many years, no matter the terrain or conditions. However, there is one major omission in all the latest KB's arsenal of goodness.
And that is the lack of stability or traction control.
The Volkswagen Amarok changed the game when it introduced a raft of electronic driving aids to the segment. Since then, the Hilux and the Ranger and the BT50 have followed suit. So it's a strange omission for the KB. It's a bit like pitching up for a game of rugby in your Speedo swimming trunks.
The exclusion of the electronics, one could still excuse if this car was selling at a bargain price, but it doesn't, not at all. This unit sells at 464,000 Rand. That's more than a Toyota Hilux, more than the new Ford Ranger, and even more than the Volkswagen Amarok. So the Isuzu is really with its back up against the wall and facing the gauntlet from its traditional enemies, because there are options in the market. Options like this, the latest Mitsubishi Triton 2.5 DID.
Join us later in the program when we put the new Mitsubishi to the off-road test.
Modern day 4x4s are getting more and more powerful by the day. So it gets a lot easier to find yourself in a tricky situation, especially on gravel roads, where you might find yourself in a situation experiencing oversteer or understeer. And here's a couple of tips as to how to counter that situation. And I honestly hope you guys that drive Fortuners and even Hiluxes are really watching right now. No, I'm just joking. Right, so Picasso's in the house again. Oversteer and understeer. You draw you a corner first. Okay, and here you've got to use your imagination, please. I have a vivid one. This is my Ferrari. So along I come into the corner and I start driving and I go into the corner. What happens with understeer? I want to go in that direction. But the harder I turn, the car just keeps on going straight, okay? I actually need to go in that direction. But because of understeer, it means it's understeering, the car is not going where you want it to go. So then you tend to go straight, all right? That's the one situation that you might experience. Okay, oversteer is when I go into the corner and the back end of the car starts to break away, okay? So now I have too much movement to go into the corner. That's the back end breaking away. So how do I rectify these two situations? Now, there's a couple of reasons why this could happen to you. One could be the road surface, the condition of the road surface. It could be the condition of your tires, could be the condition of your shocks. But normally, in 90% of the cases, it is because you're traveling too fast, okay? So what we are going to try and do now is to show you how to rectify it when you either go into an understeer situation or into oversteer. Now, please bear in mind that cars that are front-wheel drive normally tend to understeer, and cars that are rear-wheel driven oversteer. And then most cars that are permanent four-wheel drive vehicles also tend to understeer. So you have to know your vehicle when you find yourself in a situation like this. So let's try and do this practically for you. So our first little exercise is the understeer. How do I correct understeer? Bear in mind that you are in that situation because you have gone into the corner too fast, or like I said, either your tires are smooth or the road is very slippery or whatever the case might be. But 90% of the time, that's because you're too fast. How do I correct this? The best way is just to come off the power. In other words, leave the accelerator. No sudden movements, no jerking movements. Just gradually come off the power. Let the car correct itself. You'll feel that it'll actually pick up its natural traction, and once that happens, then you can get onto the accelerator again. So here goes. I'm now driving at my marker, and all of a sudden I need to swerve. Just come off the power, there's the natural traction again, and I'm back onto it and I'm back in control. Simple. No sudden movements. Okay, so our next scenario that we have is oversteer. And that is where the back end of the vehicle breaks away. How do I correct this? Once again, it's probably because you're driving too fast for the road conditions. Like I said, bear in mind the road surface, the tires, etc. But 90% of the time you're driving too fast. How do I correct this? First and foremost, do not, whatever you do not leave the accelerator, come off the gas and climb onto the brakes, because you will lose control of that vehicle. So how do I correct the situation? Gradually come off the gas and then I start to correct. In other words, if the back end breaks away to the right hand side, I now turn my steering in the opposite direction, okay? And you got to concentrate to keep your wheels pointing in the direction you wish to go. It's not to say you're going to go there. Do not overcorrect, because the moment you overcorrect, it's going to swing back like a pendulum, and then you're going to have this effect where it starts fishtailing with you and you lose total control of the vehicle. So I'm not going to try and attempt and get this Hilux sideways with a little bit of speed. Here we go. little bit of assistance from the handbrake. See there, catch it, bring it back, and then gradually come off the gas. Okay? We're doing this with too much speed. And now I turn, and I start losing the back end. I turn the wheels in the direction I wish to go. Okay? The direction I wish to go. There we go. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Do not come off the gas or climb onto the accelerator. Just keep it, hold it, direction I wish to go, and I'm back in control of my vehicle. Most modern day vehicles are equipped with either traction control or vehicle stability control. And for the purpose of this exercise, I actually turned off the traction control inside this vehicle to get the vehicle back in to brake away. It is going to cover you to a certain extent, but do not rely exclusively on traction and stability control because it'll only cover you so far. The biggest secret here, guys, is adjust your speed when you're traveling on gravel. That's the biggest danger. Adjust your speed. Now, this does not make you Hannes Grobler or Sarel van der Merwe. Please remember, as much fun as it might be, there are other road users around as well. And rather attend an advanced driving course or come and do it in an environment like here at ADA where it is controlled and under professional supervision. The Groenkloof 4x4 trail is virtually right inside the city of Pretoria. The best part is it has an awesome 14-kilometer 4x4 trail. We went to explore it.
This 4x4 nature trail is situated in the Groenkloof Nature Reserve in the Fountains Valley complex in Pretoria. It's literally a rock's throw from the hustle and bustle of the busy Pretoria CBD. Costs are R90 per vehicle and R30 per person for the Groenkloof 4x4 nature trail. From the gate, you head via winding tar road to the official Groenkloof entrance. Once clocked in here, the road continues to snake through the reserve with some zebra and wildebeest on the menu along the way. But just when you think that you may as well have brought your mother-in-law's Kia Picanto for the drive, the actual 4x4 trail starts with a bit of a bang. It's a muddy water crossing. Even in the winter months, when the water level is low, it's deepish and your mother-in-law's Kia Picanto definitely won't be happy here. In the rainy season, this crossing can apparently become quite a challenge, even for more hardcore 4x4s. There's an escape road available too, to bypass the wet stuff. From here, the trail winds through a little bit more mud to a rocky patch where your intestines get a bit of a shakedown. In the rainy season, when there's more water around, this section will probably also pose a few driving challenges. The trail continues through a few dongas and a mud hole, which was bone dry when we visited. The real fun starts after the mud hole. This steep and rocky climb will pose some challenges for most soft roaders. But if you pick your line correctly and with a rear differential lock engaged, it's not a big sweat. From here, the trail continues over some open, hilly plains past some more local spectators. Finally, the trail winds itself up a koppie to the trail's most challenging section. It's rocky and rutted with a reasonably steep incline to boot. Choosing the correct line here is vital if you don't feel like picking up pieces of your 4x4. Again, with the correct line and the correct amount of momentum, the climb is certainly not impossible to conquer. Once you have completed this section, the worst of it is behind you. From here, the trail winds its way back past some cool viewing spots where you can check out Pretoria. This trail's main attraction is its location. It's virtually in the city. Some of the obstacles are not suited for rookies or softer soft roaders, but for a family of 4x4 enthusiasts who want to test those new mud terrain tires without driving to Timbuktu, the Groenkloof 4x4 Nature Trail is just the ticket.
So no excuse if you live in Pretoria and you haven't been to Groenkloof 4x4 Trail yet. Just go and give it a try. It's the perfect place to go and test that new upgrade you've just done to your 4x4. Up next, we have a GWM steed with some serious attitude. The GWM Steed 5 Bakkie is all about value for money.
Hailing from China and armed with a reasonably okayish 4x4 drivetrain, a well-stocked interior and a very attractive asking price, the Steed offers a viable alternative in the popular double cab market. But you have to say it does lack a bit of Chuck Norris or even a bit of Bismarck Duplessis, and maybe even a dash of Africanness. And here it is, the Steed 5 that has been Chuck Norris, Bismarck Duplessis and Africanized some. It's the results of a collaboration between African Dream Adventures Hein Engelbrecht and the GWM Montana branch in Pretoria. The dealership recognized the need for a more overland-style version of the Steed, and together with Hein and our very own Hannes Krobler's 4x4 Megaworld in Pretoria North, this special edition Suri Warrior was born. It looks mighty fine for GWM, you'd have to say. Used primarily for training, the Steed rides on an uprated Oldman Emu suspension and much bigger 265/65 R17 Firestone Destination mud terrain tires on snazzy TSW rims. The Steed doesn't have a differential lock, but all the extra wheel articulation afforded by the upgraded suspension and the added ground clearance means this GWM can go just about anywhere with an experienced driver at the helm. It also has a custom front bull bar with recovery points, as well as a custom rear tow bar. The original side steps are still used, and the Steed also has a tonneau cover and roll bar, and an aluminium roof rack with high lift jack, spade and a few spotlights. This GWM Steed's interior remains stock standard, as does the engine. The 2-litre turbo diesel engine delivers 110 kilowatt of power and 310 newton meters of torque. With the bigger wheels, it won't break the land speed record anytime soon. But the gutsy little mill still has enough Vuma to hustle the Steed along at a reasonable rate of knots. Maybe the best news of all is the price. For around 300,000 Rand, you can have a brand new Suri Warrior GWM Steed 5. The final price depends on the specific accessories you want to add. But you've got to say that for the money, you get a whole lot of bucky here. Even Chuck would probably be impressed.
Wow, not a bad ride, and of course, at the right price. After the break, we have a serious look at the 2.5 Mitsubishi Triton double cab bucky. Probably one of the most underrated double cab buckies in this segment of the market.
Earlier in the program, we introduced you to the Isuzu KB 3-litre D-Tech 4x4. We concluded that the Isuzu, even though it's solid and spacious and pretty good off-road, misses the mark with its pricing versus features. And that's now where the other new contender, the so-called high-power Triton 2.5 DID 4x4, fits into the picture. Because unlike the Isuzu, which is the second most expensive double cab on the market, the Triton is now one of the most affordable mainstream double cabs on the market.
This sells for around 420,000 Rand, which is 40,000 Rand less than the KB. And no, it doesn't have any electronic driving aids, but what it does have is a very unique trick that none of its rivals can match.
And this is it, Mitsubishi's Super Select 4x4 system, as used in the Pajero and Pajero Sport. What sets this system apart from the ones in other double cabs is the fact that you can select 4x4 high range without locking the drive in a 50-50 configuration between the front and rear axles. So it has an open center differential option, which in turn means you can drive in 4x4 mode on tar roads without inflicting mortal damage to your Triton's drive system. This is especially handy on slippery gravel or wet tar roads. And the safety benefits are legion. And when you finally have to climb that big obstacle, you can manually lock the center diff for the traditional 50-50 split or select low range. The Triton also has a rear differential lock. So from a 4x4 perspective, the Triton ticks a lot of right boxes.
And it's here in the tough 4x4 track that this 2.5 Mitsubishi high-power motor really comes to the party.
The 4-cylinder common rail engine produces 131 kilowatts and 400 newton meters of torque at 2000 RPM. Once the turbo is spinning, this Triton is really brisk. But there is some obvious lag below that magical 2000 revs per minute mark, which is not uncommon in a small capacity engine that is highly boosted. Nevertheless, it's something one can quickly adjust to and drive around. Talking about driving around,
The current Triton has been around now for a couple of years, so the interior is not exactly a real work of art, but it is spacious and it has all the bells and whistles and all the mod cons, and most importantly, it's really, really comfortable.
You get most of the mod cons here, like climate control, lots of cowl, lots of buttons, a cool sound system with Bluetooth and a voice command system are all standard. But while the Triton's interior is familiar and cool, the exterior is, well, that's another story.
It just looks kind of strange. It's the lines of the cabin and then of course the shape of the buck. Sort of looks outlandish.
But that's all subjective. For someone else, it may look like a work of art. The slanted headlights, the new wheels, the not so practical side steps. Anyway, what we know is that it sells for 420,000 Rand, which seems like an absolute bargain for a luxurious double cab bakkie with an awesome 4x4 drivetrain and a 400 Newton-meter turbo diesel engine.
Make no mistake, the Isuzu certainly has a very long heritage and it has its good qualities. They've always been very reliable and they've always had the ability to give you a good drive, a solid drive. But at 464,000 Rand, do you honestly think you're getting value for money? And in these hard economic times, when everybody's hard pressed to kind of save a buck here and there where it's possible and get the most value for your money, my honest opinion is I'll have to choose the Mitsubishi 2.5 DID. I suppose by now all the die-hard Isuzu fans are ready to lynch me if they can lay their hands on me, but just hold on. I've been driving this bakkie for a week. And if you can get past the two biggest problems here, which number one is the lack of any electronic aids, and number two most certainly is the price, then it is an awesome car. Unfortunately, guys, that's all we have time for this week. Just remember, please, to keep left and pass right.
Catch all the latest motoring news in Leisure Wheels magazine. If you want more information about that 4x4 show, find us on Facebook. There you will also find more information about that 4x4 trip in conjunction with Leisure Wheels magazine. That 4x4 show brought to you by Bridgestone, your journey, our passion.